Hi friends, welcome to the Vitality Prescription. It's Dr. Yaz, triple board certified endocrinologist, obesity specialist, and internal medicine physician. And today we're talking about inflammation. Welcome back to the Vitality Prescription. I hope you've been having a fabulous end of the summer. Our end of the summer has been amazing. We just went to a football game with our kids and they had their first tailgate. Talk about inflammation. But it was a really great time. And I was thinking about, for an episode, ways we can lower our inflammation kind of easily and weave it into our routine, so that when you do have an event like, say, a football game or a tailgate where the foods may be a little bit more inflammatory, you already have a good base, right? You're not pre-inflamed before, anything like that. Anyways, so today what we're really going to get into is things that cause inflammation, especially for my type 2 diabetics, the strategies you can do to implement just to make it a little bit easier to, get out of that. So if you've been battling with things like sugar cravings while managing your type 2 diabetes, we're definitely going to go over stuff like that because that is obviously very inflammatory. And when I say type 2 diabetes can be quite inflammatory, the root cause for the diabetic complications is inflammation. So here's the good news though. You don't really have to give up all the sweetness entirely to reduce your inflammation. In fact, we're going to go through 3 powerful strategies during this episode that you can start using today to enjoy the sweetness you love while minimizing inflammation and protecting your health. So first of all, let's explore what inflammation is, how it's connected to diabetes, and why sugar plays such a harmful role in it. And then we'll talk about 3 evidence-based strategies to help you reduce it without sacrificing on flavor. Let's dive in. So, what is inflammation? In simple terms, inflammation is your body's natural response to injury or harmful stimuli. So think of it as your body's way of protecting itself. When you get a cut, for instance, inflammation is what helps your body heal. But when inflammation becomes chronic, meaning it sticks around longer than it should, it can cause more harm than good. So, in people with type 2 diabetes, chronic inflammation is a significant concern. Why? Because it plays a central role in the complications like heart disease, nerve damage, vision loss. So the first thing I want to address is why sugar causes inflammation, okay? So we know consuming too much sugar can lead to weight gain and spikes in your blood glucose levels, but there's another layer to this. So sugar actually drives chronic inflammation. So when you eat sugary foods, your blood glucose will spike, and that spike leads to your body producing insulin, which is necessary to help your cells absorb the glucose. But if this happens frequently, like it does for many of those with type 2 diabetes, your body becomes resistant to the insulin, meaning your cells don't respond as well to it. And this insulin resistance leads to higher blood glucose levels over time, which in turn causes your body to produce more inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein or CRP and cytokines. And these inflammatory markers don't just hang around harmlessly. They actively contribute to the development of complications like atherosclerosis, which can lead to heart attacks, nerve damage causing neuropathy, and eye damage caused by retinopathy. And there's many studies on this. One by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that diets high in refined sugar significantly increase levels of inflammatory markers in the body. Another study in Diabetes Care showed that reducing sugar intake can lead to noticeable decrease in CRP levels, underscoring the direct link between sugar and inflammation. So I know a lot of docs, they will absolutely get inflammatory markers on their diabetes patients to see this inflammation. But if you understand diabetes, you understand it's going to be there whether the lab shows it or not. And there's a lot of over-the-counter medications that can falsely make these labs look low. So I personally don't get inflammatory markers on all my diabetics because it may not really be clinically significant if it's negative, and I still want them to do the strategies that prevent the inflammation from getting worse or happening altogether. So the reality is I don't really use those markers as much, but the point of showing you the studies was just to show you that the sugar absolutely is directly correlated with inflammation. Now, one strategy we can try to adopt when it comes to sweetness, we really want something sweet. We had fruited out, right? Sometimes we don't want fruit for whatever reason, and you want just that sweet feeling. I'm going to say something that's a little controversial here. Anti-inflammatory sweeteners, they exist, and honestly, I think they're a great substitute, not something that you should just be living off of. And the reality is, if you want something sweet, but you're diabetic and you don't want to do sugar, okay? You just don't want to increase your sugar and worsen your insulin resistance, I think it's totally fine to swap out sugar for anti-inflammatory sweeteners. So these alternatives, they basically provide sweetness without the harmful spike in sugar and the subsequent inflammation. One I like stevia. For some people, there's always side effects, and I'm gonna definitely have a full episode on alternative sweeteners, the good, the bad, the ugly. But I do like stevia. It's a natural sweetener derived from the leaves of the stevia plant. It has a 0 glycemic index, which means it doesn't raise the blood sugar levels at all. What's more, some studies suggest that stevia can have anti-inflammatory properties. So, for example, research published in the Food and Chemical Toxicology found that stevia could help reduce markers of inflammation in animal models. Another one I like is monk fruit. It's another excellent choice because not only is it sweet, but it's rich in antioxidants. And antioxidants help fight inflammation by neutralizing free radicals, which are unstable molecules that can lead to cellular damage and trigger inflammation. And as you know, I've said it in other episodes, and I'll definitely do it again, diabetes is a cellular disease. There's a reason why our cells are not responding to the insulin. Yes, part of it is an overconsumption of sugar overstrain of the pancreas? Sure. But at a cellular level, there's a reason we're not listening, right, to our own insulin. Another study in the Journal of Medicinal Food highlighted monk fruit's potential to lower oxidative stress, which is a key contributor to inflammation. There's many programs that just honestly target oxidative stress. So again, I think using an alternative when you really want something sweet and you don't want to use sugar as a diabetic, I think that's completely fine. I think that's very good. The other thing is allulose. Allulose is kind of newer to the scene when it comes to artificial sweeteners, so I will say I'm not 100% sold yet, but I am seeing a lot of products. And so far, the FDA is saying it's safe. Will this stick? I don't know. But I do mention it because I'm seeing it in a lot of products and people are probably wondering about it. And it shows promise, in reducing both blood glucose levels and markers of inflammation. According to a study in the Diabetes, Obesity, and Metabolism Journal, allulose may help postprandial blood glucose and insulin levels, making it particularly good for diabetics. So how can you kind of incorporate these sweeteners? You don't want to do it like every day. Again, I don't want it something you're using all the time because, again, the studies aren't forever on these. We don't know long-term effects, but we do know pouring sugar into your tea is not going to help your diabetes. Period. I don't care if it's a little bit. If you're doing a little bit every day, that will add up. And it's something that you absolutely can replace. So I would start by replacing things like sugar in your coffee or tea with stevia or monk fruit. Maybe use something like allulose in your baking to sweeten your smoothies, whatever it is that you feel like you are missing sugar. And natural alternatives like fruit are not going to really do it for you at that moment. They can make a big drop in inflammation quickly, which can make you feel better quickly. So if you're someone with diabetes suffering things like joint pain and inflammation, swelling, this may be helpful. Now, I want to hop over to the second strategy, which is to build your diet around anti-inflammatory diet foods. These are foods that actively help reduce inflammation in your body and counteract the harmful effects of sugar. And we actually wrote an entire book on the anti-inflammatory diet for this reason. The book is not designed for diabetics because it does include carbohydrates, but I think it's a great measure to eat in an anti-inflammatory way 80% of the time. Or you could also say Mediterranean diet. They're very similar. And both those kind of diets, they highlight things like fatty fish. So foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, mackerel, sardines are some of the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods you can eat. Omega-3s help reduce the production of pro-inflammatory substances in the body. And a study in atherosclerosis found that omega-3 supplementation led to reduced levels of CRP and other anti-inflammatory markers in those with metabolic syndrome. In our type 2 diabetes transformation program, I definitely include omega-3s in it because I do find sometimes it's harder to eat salmon every day. And some people don't like sardines or mackerel or these kind of things, and maybe they don't even like to cook. And this is a great time where supplementation I do feel like is very, very helpful. Another one, although it's a carb, are berries, right? Such as blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. They're packed with antioxidants, particularly anthocyanins, which have a strong anti-inflammatory effect. So research in the Journal of Nutrition showed that the regular consumption of berries lowers CRP levels and overall inflammatory status. Another one is leafy greens. Think spinach, kale, and other leafy greens, which are rich in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that support body's natural anti-inflammatory processes. A diet high in leafy greens has been associated with lower levels of inflammatory markers, as demonstrated in journals like the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Another thing is turmeric. I love adding that golden spice, especially it's fall time. It just looks really pretty. Well, this golden spice turmeric contains curcumin, a compound known for its powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. Studies, including one published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, have shown curcumin has significantly reduced inflammation and improved symptoms in conditions like arthritis and metabolic syndrome, which, if you have diabetes, likely you're also suffering from. A metabolic syndrome is a constellation of things, and we'll do another episode just on that. But if you are suffering from anything like this, it could be helpful. Another group I'd like you to consider incorporating are nuts and seeds. So like almonds, chia seeds, flax seeds, these are excellent sources of healthy fats and antioxidants that combat inflammation. And there's study after study on this, highlighting the role of nuts in reducing inflammation and improving heart health. So for practical tips, try incorporating these foods into your diet is easier than you might think. It can be as simple as having a handful of berries in your morning, adding it to maybe a zero sugar Greek yogurt, and wanting to sweeten it with something like monk fruit or stevia. Or using fatty fish like salmon as the main protein in your dinner a few times a week. Or, adding a sprinkle of turmeric to soups and stews, especially, like I said, it's fall, it is stew season, for that extra anti-inflammatory boost. So the third strategy I have for you, so the first, is cutting back sugar, using alternatives if you need to, anti-inflammatory diet 80% of the time. And the third one is managing your stress and improving your sleep, okay? This one is overlooked so much, and it's just as important. Both chronic stress and poor sleep quality can significantly contribute to inflammation, making it harder to manage your diabetes. So one thing I want you to try is mindfulness meditation. This has been shown to reduce inflammatory markers in the body. A study in psychoneuroendocrinology found that participants who practiced mindfulness meditation had lower CRP levels and other anti-inflammatory markers compared to those who didn't. And deep breathing, like simple deep breathing exercises, can activate your body's relaxation response, which counteracts the effects of stress, reduces inflammation. So just a few minutes a day can make a difference. Another one is yoga. I love yoga. It's a great way to reduce stress while incorporating physical activity, which itself is a potent anti-inflammatory. Literally, exercise is medicine. The next thing is I want you to improve your sleep hygiene, okay? Because that's going to improve your sleep quality. See, good sleep hygiene is essential. It means going to bed the same time each night, creating a cool and dark sleep environment, and avoiding screens before bed. I want you to be consistent, aiming to 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. A study published in Sleep Journal found that those who consistently got 7 hours of sleep had lower inflammatory markers compared to those who slept less. It's not made up. This is very true. It's another reason why we wrote our sleep book that's for drug-free sleep. It's really about a 7-step process to create proper sleep hygiene. And then also dealing with chronic stress and anxiety using CBTI or cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia to really quiet the mind at night. Because if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to sleep no matter what surroundings you have. Now, the important thing about sleep is it doesn't just leave you feeling tired. It really does increase inflammation. So chronic sleep deprivation leads to elevated CRP and inflammatory markers, making it impossible as a type 2 diabetic to manage blood glucose and overall health. We talk about this in my program a lot, and I find it's actually one of the most challenging things for people to do. I bring it up early in the program, but I find it's one of the last things that people really connect the dots on. Now, speaking of connecting the dots, when you manage stress and improve your sleep, you significantly will reduce the inflammation and improve your overall health. So what I want to do in this next segment is really talk about how you can put this all together, because I just gave you kind of a lot of information. So putting it all together, let me give you an example of kind of like a nice day that would help with this, okay? You may start your day in the morning, green smoothie that has anti-inflammatory foods like spinach, berries, and if you need it, a touch of stevia for sweetness, although the berries may be just enough. Another one is lunch. You could opt for a healthy salad with leafy greens, fatty fish like salmon, and turmeric-based dressing. And then maybe like in the evening, you could wind down with a mindfulness meditation after dinner to reduce stress and prepare for a good night's sleep. So a day like this is going to lower your stress, improve your sleep, have anti-inflammatory foods, and decrease your sugar intake. I'm doing those things all day to day, 80% of the time, will absolutely reduce your inflammation and improve your blood glucose for better control and better feelings overall. So just to conclude about the strategies we discussed today, if you really feel you want to add sugar to something, you're really craving it and it's something you really want, think about anti-inflammatory sweeteners like stevia and monk fruit, and maybe even experiment with the newer ones on the market like allulose. The other important thing is focusing on anti-inflammatory foods. Food is medicine. So incorporating fatty fish, berries, leafy greens, turmeric, and nuts into your diet will reduce inflammation. The next is managing your stress and prioritizing your sleep. So stress reduction techniques and good sleep hygiene basically to lower that inflammation. So I encourage you to start experimenting these strategies and see how they can help you manage your inflammation. Remember, these small consistent changes lead to significant improvements over time. So if I could leave you with one prescription for the Vitality prescription today, it would be that reducing inflammation is the key to managing diabetes and improving your quality of life. And by making informed, evidence-based choices, you can take control of your health and enjoy the sweetness of life without the harmful effects of sugar. So thanks for tuning into the Vitality prescription. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, or share your experience with us. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we'll dive deep into more strategies on managing diabetes and optimizing your health.